There is much controversy around the exact ethnicity of the ancient Egyptians and who the descendants of these historically important people are. Clearly, Egypt is in Africa, and as a result, most people will assume their population was black. However, it is located in northeastern Africa. Here, it has connections to the Sub-Sahara, Southern Europe, and West Asia. Naturally, there was a diverse population ranging from Semitics, Africans, and Caucasoids. It has been difficult determining the race of ancient Egyptians from strictly their art, because colors such as red, white, or black were often used symbolically for status or religious purposes, while in other cases it appears to be used for realistic skin color. For the sake of academic honesty, we will go over which dynasties require the least amount of data interpretation to increase scientific objectivity. One of the most unexpected facts of the ancient Egyptian pharaohs was the DNA results of Pharaoh Tutankhamun, who ruled in the 18th dynasty from 1550 BC to 1292 BC.
Well, there's that research that we're hearing today that shows half of all Western European men are somehow related to the Egyptian pharaoh King Tutankhamun. CTV's Marella Fernandez here with more on this. Marella, what's up with this?
It's really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
So this is coming out of Switzerland, and the researchers there have found that not only do half of Western European men have this connection, genetic profile connection, but 70% of men in Britain, which is astounding. But they all have the same genetic profile or same ancestry as King Tut from Egypt way back when.
Well, that's hard to believe. I mean, King Tutankhamun, I think, lived probably to be about 14. How did he get around with all that?
Yeah, he didn't get past his teenage years, and he only ruled for 10 years. But I guess it goes back even further than that. And here's what's really shocking about this. Less than 1% of modern-day Egyptians have that same connection. So it kind of makes you wonder, well, if he's Egyptian, but the ancestry isn't Egyptian, how did it evolve? Which way did it move? And it looks like it didn't start in Egypt, but it evolved and went to Egypt and may have started in Europe. And that's why all the Europeans have this background.
Isn't that interesting? So what's next in this kind of research?
Well, here's another thing that is going to prove interesting. They're now looking for King Tut's closest relatives. So they got his DNA back in 2009 from the bones left by his mummy, which were found in 1922.
That's a M-U-M-M-Y.
Yes, not a M-O-M-M-Y. So now they want to find out if they can track down his closest living relative. So people are submitting their DNA, and it will be compared, and they'll have to find as many DNA markers as they can to see who's related to King Tut, which is kind of cool. I mean, to find out one day that you have some sort of royal heritage.
Sure, isn't it enough to know that you're related somehow to Arnold Schwarzenegger with all the DNA testing?
I guess that could be exciting for some people.
Well, that's going to be an interesting study, and I guess they do talk about a 7th degree of separation between us all, and it's good to be connected with you this Tuesday. We'll look forward to seeing you again next hour, Marella. Thanks for
Brad.
this.
Pharaoh Tut's family lineage has been further verified by genetic evidence as well. His grandmother, Queen Tai, has long, flowing red hair. His father, Akhenaten, and his grandfather, Amenhotep III's skulls depicts clear Caucasoid features. And if you watch my video on the Wendover Bog mummies, we went into much depth on how to forensically distinguish racial traits on skeletal structures. Pharaoh Tupmosis IV, the great-grandfather of Pharaoh Tut, also has straight hair with a brownish red tint. Queen Thuya, the great-grandmother of Pharaoh Tut, has beautiful blonde hair. There are many other royals of Egypt who, curiously, have European features like this, such as Ramses II, Amenhotep II, Lieutenant Yuya, and Sitret, the nurse of Queen Hatshepsut. Blonde hair has been demonstrated to be a natural occurrence with these mummies, rather than just a phenomenon of the mummification process. The Egyptians were also known for their glorious religious art styles, tomb paintings, and statues. Many of these statues that were found, some originating as far back as the 3rd dynasty, which began in 2650 BC, were found to be staring back at its finders with blue eyes. This is important to mention because blue eyes, blonde hair, and red hair are all most commonly found in what we know today to be the European genetic lineage. According to Science Daily, an international team of scientists led by researchers from the University of Tübingen and the Max Planck Institute for the Science of Human History in Jena successfully recovered and analyzed ancient DNA from ancient Egyptian mummies dating approximately from 1400 BCE to 400 CE, including the first genome-wide nuclear data from 3 individuals, establishing ancient Egyptian mummies as a reliable source for genetic material to study the ancient past. The study found that ancient Egyptians were most closely related to ancient populations in the Levant, and were also closely related to Neolithic populations from the Anatolian Peninsula and Europe. The genome of the Anatolian people has been studied in the past, and in 2004 it was demonstrated that the Y DNA haplogroup R1b was the second most frequent haplogroup in the Anatolian people. As stated earlier by the study, Levants were, genetically speaking, closely related to the ancient Egyptians. Levants are a reference to modern-day people in Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Turkey, and Israel. I believe this genetic marker is from the invasion of the West Asiatics. Approximately from the 12th dynasty to the 18th dynasty, a people referred to as the Hyksos, who were essentially Semites from West Asia, gradually settled in Egypt and began to rule from Thebes. These particular rulers took over at a time when Egypt was politically weak. It is unknown exactly why the Hyksos were violently expelled from Egypt by Ahmose I, but some speculation has suggested that it was the cultural changes the Hyksos brought, which included the mockery of their native gods. The way they tampered with their political structures by attempting to change what it means to be an Egyptian pharaoh would also imply changes to their definition of what they believed their relationship with their gods were. Egyptians were very conservative people and saw change as borderline taboo. After the Hyksos were expelled, they were portrayed as bloodthirsty and oppressive foreign rulers. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. And as always, thanks an awful lot for listening.